Hi, it's Sandy Wyllie. Welcome to my channel, You Got This, where I wipe away the stigma of mental illness by talking about my own personal experiences. As a patient of almost 20 years having borderline personality disorder, I talk about narcissism, post-traumatic stress disorder, schizophrenia, and a plethora of other mental health issues. But I only come on here as a former patient. I am not a licensed therapist. I can't give you a diagnosis. I can't diagnose you. I can't give you professional opinion. So I just want everyone to be aware of that. In return, I only ask of your kindness and respect in the comments below. Be kind to me, be kind to everyone else who comments. We don't always have to agree on everything, but we do need to agree to be kind. If you like what you see, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. It's free, and if you're new to my channel, welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, so today's topic is, what's it like in therapy for a borderline? And I'm only going to talk about my own personal experiences because, as you all know, if you've watched any of my videos, therapy has failed me over and over and over again. So I'm going to tell you what it's like for this borderline in therapy. First of all, have you ever heard of the Scarlet Letter? Have you ever read that? Okay. That's what it feels like for me. I'm wearing big scarlet letters, BPD, on my chest. Okay, those big scarlet letters, BPD, borderline personality disorder. And it makes all the therapists want to run. Like when the cat comes out, all the mice run back in the holes in the wall. That's exactly how the therapists are. I'm the cat, and they're all the mice. And when they see me, they run back in the holes. This is exactly how it's been with every single therapist. Most of them won't even take you on. I've had a woman who I went in, I had a discussion with. I thought we got along beautifully, a good connection. And she had openings. She even made an appointment for my next, she scheduled me for my second appointment, and she calls me up and she says, I can't see you anymore. Most people, most doctors do not want to see borderlines unless they're in an outpatient setting, in a hospital. All right. They want to be able to have access to security. There's always security in a hospital. If they're in a private clinic, there's no security. If they have their own practice, that's even worse. They won't even see you if they have their own practice because there's, who are they going to call? A big hospital like that will have a security department. And so they can always press a button in their desk, like in the movies, they'll press a button like, oh. I've heard some far out stories too because about borderlines. I had a boyfriend who was a psychologist for we were together for 2 years, the one who had, my psychologist who had sex with me. He told me about, they have such a traumatic response to abandonment. He told me that when he was opening up his own private practice and he was leaving where he, the clinic he worked in, he gave this borderline patient plenty of notice that I will no longer be working here at this clinic. I'm opening up my own private practice. Unfortunately, she did not have the insurance that he took, so she could not, become a patient at his private practice, and she was very upset about this. She felt abandoned, like that's one of the red flags of borderlines. We have a very deep-seated fear of abandonment. And the next session after he told her that, she brought a knife, and she came after him with a knife. Yeah. That, because, that's how abandoned and heartbroken she felt. So we're stigmatized, okay? We're stigmatized by the media. I've already mentioned that movie, Fatal Attraction. I'm sure that's not the only movie. That's just the one that comes to mind. But we are stigmatized, you know, because we're, you know, we act impulsively. Most of us do. I act impulsively, okay? I can't control my feelings, and I often have intense feelings of rage, you know, and you don't want to be on the receiving end of my rage. If you've listened to some of these videos, I had a best friend in college that I slapped across the face one time when I was enraged. You know, so that's, you know, that's really not a healthy way to respond to someone, your best friend, who you're upset with. You know, I mean, she didn't do anything to warrant a slap across. I don't even know. I forget what she said. Okay, I really forget it. I just remember that I slapped her across her face, and she was crying. She was like in shock, like, you know, she was in shock. So you don't want to be on the receiving end of a borderline's rage, okay? And so we're stigmatized. So, like I said, it feels like, you know, the Scarlet Letters. It feels like I'm the cat and the therapists are the mice. And when I come into the room, they all run into their holes in the wall. So you know what? You really can't help someone if you're afraid of them. All right, you can't be in any relationship if you're in fear. Okay, love is not based on fear, and you can't work. And this, not to say that therapy is love, but you can't work with someone who you're afraid with. It's not going to be effective. If you're a therapist and you're afraid of your patient, how are you going to be effective? Just like if you're a parent and you're afraid of your child, okay, how are you going to be an effective parent? You know, how are you going to discipline your child if you're afraid of them, right? Same with the therapist. How are you going to help your patient if you're like, you know, you want to run in the holes when the cat comes, you know, calling at the door for therapy? You know, you just can't. You can't. Yeah, anything fear-based is not going to work, okay? Anything fear-based, whether it's, you know, a relationship, you know, it's not going to be effective. You're not going to be effective. And this is what happens with these therapists. I make them feel, you know, inadequate, you know? I make them feel like, you know, one therapist said I made him feel impotent. Same thing, just a different, you know, way to say it, you know, inadequate, impotent, incompetent. Because borderlines are very intense. I think borderlines are beautiful people, okay? Really sensitive people, very caring. They're very insightful people. I've been told that about myself over and again in therapy. I'm very insightful. They're intuitive. They tune into you. You know, I think they're wonderful people that are misjudged, okay? We're misjudged because we're very passionate people. We have passionate feelings. We feel, okay? We feel very intensely. Like the narcissist, on comparison, you know, doesn't have any empathy, you know. They're the opposite spectrum. I know people compare the borderline and the narcissist, make comparisons of the two, but really the borderline, you know, has intense feelings for you, you know, where the narcissist just doesn't give a shit about your feelings. They have no care in the world for you. They see you as an object, something to use to gratify whatever they need at the time. And then, you know, when they're done with you, they'll just dispose of you. If you're no longer filling a role or are used to them, the narcissist will dispose of you. While the borderline will love you to death, okay? That it's like Romeo and Juliet with the borderline, you know, they will love you to death. They will probably die over you, you know. They're a fierce protector of you, really. Borderlines are fierce protectors of the people that they love, you know. That's why it's wonderful to have one in your life, in your corner. Now, I know, they bring on a lot of drama. But life would be boring without a little drama. I mean, why do people watch the soap operas, right? Because they love to see drama. You know, so borderlines are very passionate. They'll fiercely defend you. They're very sensitive to every little mood you have, you know. They pick up on it, you know. They're very insightful. It's just too bad that therapists are so afraid of us, that we've gotten a bad reputation from the media, that, you know, they're afraid, you know, of our feelings getting out of control. And, you know, I don't think it's too difficult to work with us if you know about us. Get to know the person individually. Don't like slap a label and think that cookie cutter, that identifies all the borderlines are the same, because we're not. We're all unique individual people worthy of love. Very passionate, loving, sensitive people. Okay, get to know your borderline individually. Don't like label, oh, because, you know, this person has this diagnosis that the A, B, and C, they're going to come out and kill me. You know, they're going to this, that, and the other. Just get to know your borderline individually as a person. Don't assume all these things about them because of their because they've been diagnosed with having borderline personality disorder. So it's such a shame that I've been judged before most of these therapists even got to know me. As soon as they, you know, even like, you know, it was on the radar that I was borderline or I could be borderline, I was kicked out the door by many, many, many of them, okay? As soon as it was on their radar, ooh, you know, and they, like, they'll make all these assumptions, you know, like you must self-harm, right? No, I don't. But you're a borderline, so you must self-harm. Not all borderlines self-harm themselves or harm other people. That's not true. Just wipe that out, okay? Not all borderlines harm themselves or harm other people, all right? The media, you know, drums up all this dramatic thing about us, but that's not true for everyone, you know? Usually people fall on a spectrum. My son is autistic, all right? He's also brain damaged too, but he fell on a spectrum, an autistic spectrum. It doesn't mean all autistic people are the same or all borderlines are the same. It's not like that. And to think that way really, that way of thinking really destroys any chance that you have in helping the patient that you have before you. It really destroys any, you know, any way of helping them if you've already have a preconception in your mind of how they're supposed to be. So that's a little bit why therapy has never helped me as a borderline. And if I was sitting here today and you were a therapist and I'm talking to you, and I would say just, you know, wipe out any preconceived notion of what you think of my, you know, diagnosis, and just sit here and get to know me individually as a person. That's what I would say, without the fear, you know, without the label, because yeah, like I said, it's like walking into a therapy with those big, you know, like the Scarlet Letter, BPD on my chest, and you know, the mice, the therapists running in their holes, and it's so sad, and it's such a shame that none of my therapies ever worked out. A lot of times too, they think that, you know, they try to take advantage of borderlines. A lot of times, if you know, when therapists have affairs with patients, it's usually borderline patients, and it's usually older men with female borderline patients. Look it up. I mean, I'm not saying that, you know, that's every single, you know, case, but it's usually that. they take advantage of us, you know, because we're very passionate. They think they can easily manipulate us. I've been manipulated by many therapists, you know. I've been kicked out of a majority of therapies just because I have borderline personality disorder, just because these therapists couldn't handle it. I made them feel impotent. I made them feel inadequate. You know, they were scared shit of me, you know. And I've never, you know, I don't carry a knife. I don't carry a gun. I've never been to jail. I've never, you know. Okay, so the worst thing I did was slap my best friend Julia when I was like 18 years old in college. That's about the worst thing I did. But so that's where it is for me. I know they say DBT therapy works for borderlines. I've been in that, and I told you I've been kicked out of that. I never really liked that because they had a handbook, and you were supposed to follow everything in the handbook. And I don't like following rules. I don't want therapy to feel like I'm back in school, you know? And that's what it's like with DBT, all right? CBT, like wear an elastic around your wrist, and anytime you have a feeling of doing something, just snap the elastic. Like, really, come on here. Snap an elastic. I don't think snapping an elastic is going to stop me from doing anything I want to do. Really? But that's true. That's part of that therapy. Believe me. I've been to so many. I know, you know, they do these exercises, you know. You have a list of things that you're supposed to do. Instead of acting out on your feelings, go for a walk. Bake cookies, you know. You know, I never really did well with following lists of things, you know. They give you homework. You know, I hated homework in school. So imagine doing homework in your therapy. You're supposed to go out and do this A, B, C, D, and then come back and talk about it with your therapist. Okay, like I never really bothered with homework while I was in school. So I'm certainly not going to do homework when I'm in therapy. None of that stuff really ever works. You know, I think all people want in therapy is a good listener who asks the right kind of questions, who won't judge us, okay, who won't take advantage of us, who won't mistreat us sexually, emotionally, verbally, physically, won't judge us, will ask the right kind of questions, will treat us as individuals, not as part of a label, and not be afraid of us, and let us express our feelings openly inside the therapy, not have to write it out, you know, or, you know, do homework and all this, journal this and journal that, you know. None of that stuff ever worked. I never. And like psychoanalysis where you lay on the couch and the therapist is behind you, I hated that kind of therapy. You know why? Because God knows what they're doing, right? They're probably on their phone, you know, checking their email or text messaging. How am I going to know? I'm laying down and they're behind me. That's how analysis works. You lay on the couch and the therapist is behind you. I've done it. I've done practically every therapy. And I even said to the guy, I said, how do I know that you're not even, you know, you're on your phone or looking at the newspaper or whatever, you know? How do I know you're even paying attention to me? So I'd get off the couch and I'd turn around real fast. Gotcha! All right.